Hello, and welcome back to the Mind Mountain podcast. This is the podcast that delves deep into the mental performance side of mountain biking so that you guys, the listener, can learn tools, tips, and tactics from the best mountain bikers in the world in order to have more fun out on the trails more often. Today on the podcast, I'm joined by the incredibly talented Emmy Lan. Emmy is a rising star in the Canadian mountain bike scene with a national title to her name and some seriously impressive race results already on the elite level. As well as that, the reason I'm really excited to have this conversation today is not only to talk about Emmy's impressive results, but also to dive into the how she has achieved these results and how she approaches the sport. So we're going to dive into how Emmy has evolved as a racer, what it takes to step onto the world stage with confidence, as well as taking a look at some of the tools she's learning to stay grounded and focused in high pressure moments. So this one's going to be for anyone who's chasing progression on or off the bike, in or outside of a racing environment. Emmy, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Right on. Well, I've got to say, congratulations on the recent results.
Thank you.
A killer last week.
Yeah, it's been super fun. We were just doing all the Canada Cups.
Yeah.
And I love doing those races because it's all the familiar faces and familiar tracks. And it's just like the best community of people. So that always makes it fun.
For sure.
Yeah.
So you got the first place there at Sun Peaks and at Panorama?
Yeah, which was awesome. But it's crazy because I won the elite category. But some of the junior girls and the U17 girls are so fast. And they're like, oh, Emmy, tow me into this line. And I towed them into it. And then I watched them do it. I'm like, wow, you just did that so much better than I did. But it's
so
super
awesome.
cool seeing all the young girls.
It must be cool for you kind of progressing to that stage where now you're the one that people are asking for tow-ins.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was one of the biggest things growing up is I loved having people to look up to and seeing what they're doing. And so it's cool to kind of switch and now being the role model for some of the younger girls. But yeah, I love it.
So rad. And I guess on the surface we're like, wow, 2 first place, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, like, what were the days like for you? Was there any kind of challenging moments or like what went into getting those 2 first places?
Yeah, I think for these races, I always just try and keep it fun and light. And then that's when I seem to do the best, when I'm enjoying it. I think it's pretty tiring. These races are so back to back. We like finish race day and then the next day is like practice. So you're like kind of a bit slow to start. But I think that's what makes it fun. It's like no one's too serious and they're able to just ride how they want to ride.
Right, yeah, the back-to-back races must just add a whole nother element.
And I think that's what's really tough. Like in Europe, it's even harder because you're so out of your element or it's just all different environments. But in Canada, it's already exhausting, but it's a bit easier because grocery stores are familiar, familiar faces, but speak the same language.
Right, so you're able to focus more so just on the races.
Yeah,
Everything else
exactly.
is on autopilot.
And I think that's really nice. After racing in Europe, you come back and it's like a weight's lifted. You're like, okay, I can just focus on the racing now. Have fun.
Yeah, amazing. Do you ever feel like a pressure when you say won one race and you're like, there's another race in 4 days, I'm practicing for it tomorrow to kind of like keep that momentum rolling?
For sure. And I think especially at these races, I know everybody and people sort of put expectations on you, especially like nationals last year with the sleeve. People are like, oh, you got to back it up and you got all these pressures on you. But I try and just take it lightly and focus on the riding. That's what matters.
It's wise. I guess even just like stepping into that role as like an unofficial mentor for some of the races, all of a sudden now it's like, I need to perform at that level.
Yeah, for sure. And it's all the little things too. Like in practice, when you're trying to be a role model and show the other girls what to do, you kind of got to think, okay, this is how I want to do it. This is how I want to practice. And then it helps me as well because I'm like, okay, I really got to think about what's going on and how I want to show these girls what the best way is to do things.
Yeah, great. Do you find that sometimes takes away though from like your practice and your performance when you're then thinking about the line, how it looks for someone else?
Yeah, sometimes. And I think that goes back to the pressure too of like, sometimes when you know someone's out there watching and people have these expectations on you, you're like really like, oh my God, I got to do this well. But yeah, just trying to keep it light is always on my mind.
Yeah, I can relate kind of doing demos when I'm out coaching. Sometimes
Yeah.
I've been some really horrible demos because I'm thinking about
you're like, okay, I got to do this well.
Yeah, how does this look for the client versus just like doing the drop the way I've done it a million times.
But exactly. And I think that like you know how to ride a bike. And I think if you just trust that, then have the trust in yourself and it all works out pretty well.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, that's awesome. I'm keen to dive a little bit more into the mindset stuff later, but I think it'd be cool just to start out here with getting a little bit of a backstory. Tell us about like where you grew up and when mountain biking first came into your life.
Yeah, so I grew up on the island, and both my parents are really big mountain bikers, and my brother used to ride as well. And so my parents were always like, you got a mountain bike, it's so fun. And so they really pushed it when I was younger. And it's funny because I actually used to hate mountain biking. And I think it's because my parents were really good and my brother was way better than me. So I was like, wow, I'm so bad at this sport. Like, this sucks. And pedaling when you're slow and biking when you're slow is scary. But I think it's so cool how as soon as you start to progress, then it just takes off. And then it's so fun. You're going so fast. And I think that's what I really loved is I was never super good when I was young. And then the internal, like, I want to get better at this, that kind of pushed me to keep doing it. And then it was so fun. I was like, wow, this is the best sport
So
ever.
you kind of turned that frustration into fuel for your fun.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, it doesn't matter about the other people. It matters how I'm feeling. And then as soon as you start like thinking about that, you notice the steps that you're taking. And that's super cool. And I think that's what's addicting for me is like, wow, I couldn't do this yesterday and now I can do it. And that's so cool. And that's what kind of fueled the fire for me to start taking it more serious.
That's so awesome to hear. So as soon as you removed yourself from kind of like that comparison against others, just focused on having fun for you, that's when the fun started, the progression started.
Yeah, and then as soon as that started, then all of a sudden I was faster than my brother. And I was like, hell yeah.
Isn't
Look
that
at
cool?
that.
So as soon as you went back to that internal,
Yeah.
actually got the result.
Yeah.
But when you were focused on that result alone, it wasn't happening.
No, because I think if you're always comparing yourself to others, it's so hard it's frustrating. And it's a really tough sport to not be great at. Like when you're struggling, it's super hard. And you're like, wow, I'm never going to be good at this. And I'm never going to be as fast as them. But as soon as you put it internally, it's like, okay, I just did this and I couldn't do that yesterday. And now I feel so much better.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those sports, isn't it, where there is like that barrier to entry. Like at the start, it's hard. It all sucks. It's hard work. You're puffing and puffing. It's maybe scary. We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And then when we do pass that barrier, it's kind of like the magic happens when we start.
Yeah.
This is why people mountain bike.
Yeah,
This is why
exactly.
people
And I
do
think that was the same when I was younger. There weren't too many girls I could ride with. So I was just riding with the boys and my parents. And I was just like, wow, this is the hardest sport ever. But yeah, as soon as you start taking off, you're just gone.
So cool. What's your biggest piece of advice that you'd give to someone, maybe specifically like a younger girl getting into mountain biking and maybe feeling like they're in that place where it's all hard?
I think you got to turn it internal. I think you got to focus on yourself and then you will start taking the steps to catch up and progress. But yeah, I would just say not compare yourself to others because everyone's journey is different too. People progress at different times. So yeah, when you're focused on your own path and you're focused on how can I get better, then I think that's what helps the most.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I know you're also really big on balance in mountain biking, in racing, probably in life in general. I'd love to ask that. What does balance mean for you?
I think that is the most key thing for my whole life and racing especially. And it took a while to figure out, like, yeah, there's been a lot of times where I'm like, whoa, I don't know what I'm doing. Racing is so hard. And to fix that, I figured out it's balance and having that sort of balance between racing and life. And so I have a lot of friends who don't race and who don't bike at all. And that's been really important for me to be able to have those people to lean back on. And I think it's really important. So when racing doesn't go well, you have something to lean back on. And you're not just a mountain biker. You're not just a mountain bike racer. You're a whole person and that's just a part of you. And that's been really helpful when I'm struggling racing or struggling biking to fall back on other things. And I think that's like everything, having other hobbies too. I love to paint and I love to ski and run. And sometimes you just need a break. Sometimes that's when the most progression happens is I'll be like so into biking and so into racing and I'm just not getting better. And I'm like, what's going on? And then you take a step out of that world and sort of balance yourself, do other things and realize there's a whole other world out there. And then you come back and you're so much better.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love that. Yeah, that whole idea of balance and especially kind of the themes you're talking about there in like our identity.
Yeah.
For just a mountain biker, it's so much tougher when we do have a setback.
Exactly.
We just need to take a break because we're maybe trained or over blacked.
Yeah, and I think it's super important when you're struggling because mountain biking is such an awesome sport and you can get so wrapped up in it. But then when it does start to be a bit more difficult and you're struggling, if you have other things around, it's a lot easier to motivate to keep going.
Yeah, totally. And what's it been like, stepping up to the elite racing scene and now, traveling, doing a lot more races? What's it been like trying to, I guess, like, are you working as well? Like, how are you navigating that?
Yeah, so the first year elite, I was on Forbidden still, and that helped a lot, the support. But I've been serving for the past few years at restaurants, which is always nice. That's like a good balance, I find, just take my mind off biking for a few hours. And when I first got into racing and like the World Cups and going over to Europe, that's how I paid for everything, was just serving and saving up as much money as I could. And then eventually I got onto the team and that sort of helped a lot. But
fantastic. Yeah, so now you can kind of say like racing's my job.
Yeah, exactly. And I can focus on that, which is really nice.
Talk about balance. Like, it's not just balancing plates, but like you're on your feet, you're working incredibly hard as a server late nights, and then you're going to try and perform at your best on the racetrack on the weekends.
And I think it's super tough, but for me, that's been helpful is I can just go to work, go to the restaurant and not think about biking at all. And then I'm so stoked to go biking when I do get to go biking. And that was like high school too, or school, like university. You go and you sit in a class all day and then you're so excited to go biking because you're like, hell yeah, I've been sitting down all day. Whereas there was one year, my second year elite, I think, I didn't work at all because I didn't have to because I had the team. And I just felt like my love for the sport was sort of dying because I was like, oh, I can just bike all the time, which is awesome. But then you're like, you wake up, you're like, oh, I don't know. Whereas
maybe I'll go later.
Exactly. Whereas exactly. So I think that part of balance is really helpful too.
Interesting. So I guess where does your motivation come from now? That perhaps, there is extra time and space, extra opportunities to go and ride. How do you keep that stoke alive?
Well, I think that's another thing, jumping up to elite that's a huge jump and it's really tough. And so being in U21 and junior, it's not easy, but it's a bit easier to sort of get the results you want. And jumping up to elite, you're at the bottom of the barrel. Like you're not up there with the top girls yet. And so that's what sort of motivated me, I think, is the progression of myself. I was like, as soon as you're in elite, you're like, okay, I got to really focus on myself and do what I can to progress, to catch up to those other girls.
Yeah, so amazing. So like setting, I guess, like a hard goal.
Which is hard too, because it can be like tough first year elite. You're like, wow, I'm not getting the results that I want to be getting or I'm used to maybe. So setting those goals and realizing that those goals aren't easy and you're going to have to work for them. I think that's a really important part.
Yeah, totally. What's it been like mentally navigating, I guess, like racing versus now racing elite?
Yeah, I think it's a huge mindset shift as well because junior and U21, you're going for the win and you can do it. And racing elite, I had to sort of focus on smaller goals as well as like, I just want a run that I feel proud of and the result, it matters. But if I have a run that I felt good in, that's really cool. And I can work towards that goal and then eventually start stepping up and stepping up and stepping up. So I think jumping up to elite, you're sort of setting different goals as well. You're trying to do what you can to achieve those goals without letting yourself down too much.
Amazing. So it's like smaller goals that you can celebrate along the way.
Yeah, exactly. Because
so it's not focused on perhaps what's not happening.
Exactly. And you're not always elite. You're not always going to win. And it's super tough to get up to that position. So reaching those other goals is really helpful.
And what does your work look like off the bike? Obviously, you're riding lots, you're practicing lots on the bike, but what other things are you doing?
That's like any sort of gym work I like to do and running, and I think a lot of other sports help as well. Mountain biking, just your fitness, like skiing in the winter, and then just trying to get strong. I think that's one of my weaknesses too, is I don't love going to the gym. I've never been like a huge gym person, but every time in the summer I'm like, wow, I should have done more bench presses. Like this is so hard. So trying to get that, build up as much strength as I can in the winter, that really helps.
Yeah, fantastic. Do you feel like that strength training has saved you a couple of times?
Oh yeah, for sure. And you can notice it too. Like sometimes when I'm in the gym, I'm like, is this really gonna help my biking? Like, I don't know. But then you're riding and you're like midway down a track and you're like, wow, my arms are so tired, but they feel strong. Like
Yeah.
I can hold on better than I could. So
Yeah, and perhaps in that instance when we do take a bad line or a harsh compression, I know I've noticed a couple of times recently where I'm like, I don't think I would have rode that out if I
yeah,
didn't go to the
exactly,
gym.
for sure. And even my legs too, like even downhill, like enduro especially, you need to have good leg strength and cardio. But downhill, like my legs this past week, I was like, wow, they're getting so sore after riding. And I think as much gym as you can get in to build up that base strength is so important.
Yeah, and it's a tricky one to wrap our heads around sometimes as mountain bikers, isn't it? Because I know sometimes for me it means like skipping a ride to go to the
Yeah.
gym.
Hmm.
But I know I was injured recently. I just kind of slipped out and kind of spurred on an old shoulder injury. Nothing
Yeah.
too bad, but I was kind of saying to my gym trainer, should I skip the gym this week? I've got a lot of work riding on. And he said, no, actually the opposite. You need to go
Yeah.
to the gym and ride less.
For sure. And sometimes in the winter, it's hard to take those days off riding to go to the gym, but I'll do like a big block, like right after the season of like very minimal riding and just gym. And when I come back, I feel so much better because sometimes you need that break from riding to just get your body back in shape and strong. And then the riding, like your skills always come back. And if you can have that base strength and muscle, it's so helpful.
Yeah, amazing. So like mid-season now, you're in the middle of a whole bunch of races. What does your schedule look like? I'm curious, like how many times would you be out riding a week versus how many times in the gym?
Yeah, it's crazy in the summer because you actually, sometimes I feel like I ride less in the summer because there's so many races and you need to recover as well. The recovery is really important, I think, in the summer. So, like right now, mid race season, I'm like doing maybe 2 or 3 rides a week, and then I'm just trying to race on the weekends. So, you're sort of taking a bit more rest days than maybe you would think, especially in Europe. When we're racing the World Cups in Europe, we race so often that you have to just rest in between. So you're not really doing a ton of fun rides, really.
Yeah, no, that's interesting, but it totally makes sense. I guess the rides you are doing are like at the upper echelon of your performance. So they're really hard, high intensity rides versus in winter we can go for lots of chill rides and
Yeah, exactly.
turn the intensity up or down depending on how we're feeling.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, for sure. And it's really important. I think going into a race weekend, you want your body to feel rested and recovered. So trying not to overdo it, which is always hard. I think that was a big thing. My first year on the team, you can't, it's hard for me to say no to rides, but sometimes you need to. And I think I learned that the first year being on the team is the boys would go out riding and I'd be like, oh yeah, for sure, I'll come. And then I'd get to a race week and I'm like, whoa, I am so tired. So sort of, you got to focus on what's best for your body and your racing. But yeah.
Totally. What kind of cues do you look for when you're kind of tuning in internally and trying to navigate, saying yes or no to different rides?
Yeah, I think it's hard. I think I got to listen to my body first. And then also sometimes you got to make tough decisions of like, okay, I have a training day tomorrow for practice. I'm going to take today off and that's it. And if people are going riding, you got to just say no. You got to do something else, which is where the balance comes in again of like, I don't know, if you didn't have any other hobbies or nothing else, you would just sit there bored. But if I need a rest day, I'm like, okay, sweet. I'll do some painting. I'll go for a hike. I'll do something else, go for swimming. So it's nice.
That's so awesome. And I'm curious, like you're doing lots of work in the gym, obviously lots of training on the trails, some different sports. Have you worked with any mountain bike coaches or anyone like in the mental department over the years?
Yeah, I actually haven't. I've had multiple different strength coaches. But I find talking to people like podcasts or even coaches who don't specify in mental training, but people, you can learn so much from people just talking, and especially a lot of the older racers. Everyone is so helpful in the mountain bike industry. If you just say how you're feeling, people always want to help you. And so I think that's cool being at the races. There's always people around who talk and who can help you. So it's cool to be able to have that community and reach out when you need help, and people always want to help.
It's so cool to hear, like, just talking to you, I can hear so many threads of sports psychology and different things I've read and learnt from mentors myself. And it's so cool to hear that you've been able to pick that up just by, I guess, being open and asking questions, soaking in that wisdom.
And a lot of people have been through the same struggles that you have, and they've learned, and so you can learn from them. And I think it's always great to just talk about those things.
Yeah, like it's always so much better, isn't it, rather than going about it by a trial and error and
Yeah, exactly.
beating ourselves up and having a
Yeah,
really tough time. It's like, hey, maybe you've already gone through that
yeah,
process.
and
I
you
can
can
just
help.
learn the right, the right ways.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of mountain bikers struggle of getting in this rut of like, oh, the results aren't happening and I don't know what I'm doing. Um, but I think that's where those like little goals come in handy.
Yeah,
When you
totally.
can,
Kind of taking those steps out of that
yeah,
cycle of
mm-hmm,
avoidance. Yeah.
because you're a great mountain biker even when the results aren't happening. Sometimes
Mm.
you just need a little goal to achieve yourself.
Yeah, awesome. Is there any favorite bits of advice or mottos or anything you've picked up from a mentor over the years that's kind of stuck with you?
One of my good friends, Lucy, she always tells me, might not say it right, but the day you plant the seed is not the day you harvest the fruit or something.
Mm.
And that has always really stuck with me because like sometimes you have to be patient with things and the results aren't just going to like show up right away. You got to work and you can see it. A lot of the top racers, they've struggled, and then it happens. But you got to put in the work and be patient and then it'll come.
Yeah, I really love that. It
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of another metaphor one of my mentors told me, and it's kind of like if you're panning for gold, if you keep just shaking that pan, the water's always going to be murky.
Yeah.
You've actually got to take that rest, like you were talking about before,
Let it all.
let it all
Yeah,
settle, and then
that's
you'll see
so
the
good.
gold. And
That's
it's
so
kind of the
good.
same with what you were saying.
Yeah.
Sometimes the stoke or your mountain biking is better
Mm-hmm.
after you've just taken a big break.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's, the patience and the waiting
Yeah.
is hard, but you got to do it sometimes.
Fantastic. So you talked a little bit there about your first year on a factory
Mm-hmm.
team. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. What's that been like for you?
Yeah, it's been incredible. And I feel like I got super lucky. So I was on Norco and I think a few years ago now.
Yeah.
And I was just paying for all the races and to get over to Europe from the serving job. And Dupel, the manager of Forbidden, reached out at the end of the season. I had a few U21 wins by then. And he was like, okay, let's set something up. And so the team at that point was Alex Storr, Reese Werner, and Connor Fearon. And that's like intimidating. It's scary. And I had never been on a team before. And so that winter I was like, okay, I got to like train hard. And I was nervous. I was super nervous. And our first trip was to Australia for the World Cup. And I remember being on that plane. I was like, oh my God, I'm so scared. Like, what if they don't like me? And you're like, it's different.
It's a long flight, just
Yeah.
stuck in your head.
Yeah, right?
Like 15,
And
20
it's-
hours to get down
Yeah, it's so different being on, like, not on a team. You're doing everything yourself. You're staying by yourself. You're
Right.
sorting everything out. But on the team, somebody does that for you and you just show up and it's the dream. But you're also, you're now staying with people. They're your team. You do everything with them. So that's a bit nerve-wracking, but they were so good. They're like the best people I could have imagined to be on a team with. And I think that just shows the mountain bike community. Like everyone is just stoked to be there. And so being on the team sort of, it was so fun. And it just showed me how awesome it is to meet new people and hang out. And they're incredible. And so it's so fun. And they also, I think what's really important is they also sort of balance. Like Reese is always doing crazy adventures off the bike and Alex does all these different things. So that's super fun to be able to, we can ride together and then we can go do other things together too, which is so fun.
That's really cool. So you had some really good role models there right away.
Yeah.
That turn those nerves into excitement pretty
Yeah.
quickly, it sounds
And
like.
it's cool because Reese and Alex have been racing the World Cups for a while now. And so they definitely showed me a lot of the ropes and how to do things. And I learned so much from them. Just like being at a race weekend with them, I could be like, wow, you're doing this like that. And you're GoProing these tracks. Maybe I should do that.
Okay, cool.
So you learn so much being on a team.
Tell us about that. So you're GoProing the tracks in your practice. How do you use that?
Okay, so that was one of the biggest shifts is I didn't even own a GoPro before being on the team. And then we get to Australia and Alex and Reese are like GoProing everything. And then and then at night, like after practice, they sit and they watch the GoPro for hours, just analyzing, visualizing, and trying to remember. Because enduro's hard. You get one practice and then you got to race it. So the GoPro comes in so handy. And sometimes I think it's tricky because sometimes I overdo it with the GoPro. And so then I got to take a step back and okay, I just need to ride. But having the GoPro to see the lines and stuff is so helpful.
That's so cool. It kind of reminds me of a saying Paul Howard from GSMBC, the
Yeah.
mountain bike coaching organization. He says, think but don't think too much.
Yeah.
Look but don't
Yeah.
look too much. It's
Yeah.
kind of like that with the GoPro.
Exactly. And sometimes I find like some races I actually don't GoPro because I just need to ride. Sometimes I ride better if I'm not thinking about stuff. And I'm just flowing with how I think the trail should go and how I'm riding. Whereas GoPro definitely makes you think. And sometimes it can be really helpful, but it can be really not helpful too.
Right. Yeah. And what kinds of things are you looking for when you're reviewing that GoPro footage?
Well, definitely the fastest lines. I think that's like the one key thing. And then I don't like the uphills. So I always try and like anticipate the uphills and be like, okay, this is coming up, get into a good gear, and then you're ready. And then it just makes things so much smoother when you know what's coming up and you know what you're looking for, you're ready for
So
it.
you're kind of looking for terrain cues, as in like when I get to that tree or that rock.
Yeah, exactly.
You're down in anticipation.
Yeah, and then you're ready, and then you know, and then when you come up to it in the race, you're like, okay, it's time to pedal.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Sorry, is this sun all right for you? Are you getting too hot? We can move into the shade.
Oh
if you
no,
like.
it's all good.
You're all good?
Yeah,
I can
nice
read
and
some
sun. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned like the slow state there. Sometimes you're saying like it's better not to think. I think as mountain bikers, it's probably like the one thing we all have in common, no matter what our level is. We love that slow state.
Yeah.
Although it can be a little bit elusive at times. I'm curious, is there anything that you do that you know helps get you into that slow state?
Okay, so this is a crazy one, but at the top of the race runs, I used to always listen to like rap or music that would hype me up, and then I'd explode and I'd crash because I'm too
jacked up.
Yeah, too jacked up. And so when my friends taught me this, I started listening to classical piano music at the top, which is like weird. It seems like it would do the opposite, but I don't typically listen to classical piano music. So now when I hear it, I'm like, okay, I'm about to race. I'm locked in. I'm in the zone. And it sort of puts me into that mindset of racing, which is super helpful. And we were just talking about this with one of my friends, is sometimes cue words as well. Yeah. So when you're riding, thinking of certain words will just bring you to that place where you need to be to do the best you can. And so it's sort of like the classical piano music, but yeah, having certain cue words where you're just like, okay, when I hear that word or when I say that word, I'm in that zone.
Yeah, fantastic. Any of my clients listening, take notes, because potentially it's two techniques as well. And
yeah.
It's really cool to hear that someone racing at elite level is so tuned into that. I mean,
it's so helpful.
The first one, like the classical piano music, I love that because there is such a thing as like over alert, isn't there? Like too hyped. And then under alert too, when we're not actually stressed enough.
Yeah.
They are like alert enough to focus on the task at hand. So it's about getting into that sweet spot, right?
Yeah, and sometimes you need that cue to just shift your mindset to the right place.
Sounds like that sound or the classical music that you don't use for anything else. It's like become an anchor.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Like, this is the physiological state that I adopt when I listen to that cue.
Yeah, and then I'm ready. And I know when I hear that music, I'm like, okay, it's time to race.
Have you heard of Pavlov's dogs? Or
No.
The scientist Ivan Pavlov?
Oh, no.
So that's where that research comes from. It's called positive stimulus response.
Okay.
Basically, he did all these cruel experiments on dogs, but probably one of the least cruel was he was ringing bells.
Yeah.
And then he would feed the dogs.
Yeah.
Ring the bell, feed the dogs. And he noticed after a time that when he would ring the bell, the dogs would start salivating.
Because they know.
Getting ready to eat. They're like, that sound means food.
Yeah.
So then what he would do is ring the bell and not feed them, but they would still, like, physiologically get ready to eat. Right?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Food bell. So it's kind of what's happening there, right? It's
exactly.
Like you're listening to the classical music and you're like, right, it's time to race.
Yeah, and then you know it.
Yeah. It fascinates me. I love watching like crankworks and downhill races and stuff because you'll see riders doing things that perhaps look weird on the surface, like a tick or like they're scratching their earlobe over and over again. But now that I've learned this, I'm like, that's their anchor.
Yeah.
Getting ready.
Yeah.
Putting their goggles on, taking a deep breath.
Yeah, they all have a routine. And that's the other thing is I'll like double tap my helmet at the 8 second because you get like 10 seconds and then 5 seconds or whatever. But just double tap and then you're ready. I guess there's so many little cues that you don't even realize after a while.
And that could even be like a distraction thing, is it, right?
Yeah.
Instead of counting the timer and letting the nerves build up. Right. Got my helmet on.
I'm ready. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Fantastic. And I love those cue words. I find for me, like, if getting into the flow state, like I said, I feel like it's really elusive. Like sometimes I'll get it, sometimes I won't. But I do find perhaps keeping like my focus relatively small, 2 or 3 words, is usually a good way for me to then find myself thinking about nothing and perhaps being in the moment more. Have you noticed similar things when you put your cue words?
For sure. And I think one thing I struggle with too is like getting a bit too loose sometimes. And maybe that's like the flow state, getting a bit out of control. So one of my words is just control, and then keep it in control. I know how to ride. I don't need to push anything here. That always sort of locks me in, brings me back, and it's an easy, simple word to say.
And when we have control, we often feel confident, don't we?
Exactly, yeah. You feel good and you're like, okay, this is what I'm doing right now. I'm in control. Yeah.
Fantastic. And when you say control to yourselves, like what does that symbolize, or what are some of the, I guess, the physical actions that then spurs on?
I think it just puts me, a lot of it is cornering. Sometimes, like we all know how to ride a bike really well. And sometimes you're just not really thinking, you're just doing whatever. But when I say control, I'm sort of, okay, I'm in control. I'm riding the bike. I'm going to corner well. I'm going to do this jump well. I'm like putting my bike where I want it to go. I'm the one in control. And then that sort of leads to my riding to a better state.
I love that. I think it's so common these days we're riding like incredibly fast bikes, like rails, they're really long. I find so often the bikes kind of want to run away from us.
Yeah, exactly. And you get a bit out of control and you're like, whoa, okay, control, I'm in control. I need to bring it back here.
Yeah. And what about mentally? Like, what does control mean for you from a mental standpoint?
I think control always is, it's sort of this thing where I can control what I can control and the other things don't matter. Like if I get a flat, it's out of my control. But when I'm focused on control and I'm in control, it sort of lifts a lot of the stress or pressure. And yeah, sometimes things happen that aren't in your control, but there's no point in thinking about those things or focusing on that. When you're focused on control and yourself, it's easier to just be like, okay, I'm in control. Nothing else matters.
Yeah, I love that. So kind of like letting go of whatever happened on the last corner or the last
exactly.
Being here in the present.
Yeah, and I think there's always people talking to you and saying things and other things going on in your life, but you can control what you can control, and that's all you really need to focus on.
Super wise. What are your other cue words? Do they change kind of day to day, race to race, or have you kind of got your 2 or 3
Probably.
words loaded?
Yeah, sometimes I think when there's a certain part of the track that I'm like struggling with, or always the climbs too, I'm like push, because it's so easy in enduro too to just sort of slack, especially like midway through the day. Sometimes you just need to tell yourself to push, like you just got to do it. So that's always a good one. And then sometimes I feel like when I say it, I just do it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna push here, I'm gonna paddle hard. And then you're doing it.
Right, yeah. And when you say push, is that like pushing down through the pedals, pump in, or is it just like push in general?
I think everything, pushing down through the pedals, and then on the sprints, you're like, just push hard, and it always ends, so.
Yeah, I love that one. I find for me, I often say press.
Yeah.
Thing, but like when I'm like pressing down through my feet, it helps me feel grounded on the bike.
Yeah.
Kind of centered, my weight's in my feet, I'm not hanging off the back or too far over the front.
Yeah.
Kind of, just like pumping helps me get back to the present.
For sure. I think it always is like, no matter how fit you get or how strong you get, it's always going to hurt a bit, but it always ends.
Totally.
There's always an ending, and then you're going to feel so good after when you know you gave it your all.
Right, yeah, amazing. And what about breathing? Do you find yourself thinking about breathing at all when you're riding, when you're racing?
For sure, and that, like, you can see it in my photos. I'm like, but I think it's like helpful because you can also just focus on your breath, and that's in your control, and that helps. Like, I think it's hard because you don't see a exact correlation to what it's doing, but it is so helpful. And at the top too, when you're nervous and you're sort of freaking out a bit, just you can control your breath and you can focus on that, and it's so peaceful.
Totally, and it works both ways, doesn't it? Like we slow down our breathing, and then we mentally feel less nervous, less stressed. And then we slow down our breathing, we're also physically less tense.
Yeah, and then you're more in control, which is nice.
I also find sometimes when I just perhaps focus on my breathing while I'm riding, all of a sudden I stop thinking about like the 10 things I'm meant to be doing.
Exactly, yeah.
I stop overthinking a little bit, and it's almost like I just let my body do what it knows.
Yeah, and that's all you need to think about, and then, you're good.
Nice. Do you ever catch yourself not breathing?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think sometimes you're like, when you're scared too, it's hard, and you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, but you just need to breathe, and then it's all relaxed. But yeah, for sure. And any like tough lines or tough jumps that I'm worried about, I think that really comes in handy, the breathing. It's just breathe, and then it all feels better.
Yeah, great. And how specifically are you doing that? Is it like while you're looking at the line before you get on the bike, or is it during?
I think every time at the top, I'll do a few breaths in the start gate. And then I'm pretty sure like the entire time I'm riding, especially downhill, I'm like focusing on trying to just breathe. Because downhill is so hard because it's such an intense, short race that it's so easy to just forget about breathing. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed and I'm so like scared right now. But the breathing, if you can breathe all the way throughout your race run, it's so helpful.
Yeah, totally. And I guess like downhill racing, like your heart rate's so high as well.
Yeah,
So
for
the
sure.
system wants to just keep rising up
Yeah.
and up and up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the breathing, it must help you regulate that a little
Yeah.
bit and just kind of keep it in check in the sweet spot there.
I think that's just so important.
Yeah,
while
awesome.
racing.
And I'm curious, like I wanted to ask, I've talked a little bit about this already, but I want to dive a bit deeper into your relationship with pressure. How does it show up for you, and then how do you navigate it?
Yeah, I think the pressure is, there's so many different parts of pressure that are coming into a race weekend. And I always find it kind of goes back to the balance. If I can take my mind off of racing completely for a bit, it alleviates all that pressure for like a short period of time, and then I'll feel better coming back into it, sort of taking those breaks away. And then it's also the people. I think sometimes you need a break. You just need some alone time to just breathe and, yeah, focus on what you can control, and that it's just mountain biking.
How do you navigate, say, like on a track walk or the practice day? There's obviously lots of other people there. There's lots of other opinions floating around.
Yeah.
People talking about, watch out for this roll, this line's faster than
Yeah.
that line. Or like, how do you navigate that and focus on you versus taking in perhaps other people's perceptions?
Yeah,
opinions?
I think I always try and think like observe but don't absorb. So you can like hear everything, but if you have that in your mind, like I'm going to observe, but I'm not going to absorb, and I'm going to take what I need and leave the rest. Because it's so hard, especially on like track walk days or practice days for enduro. There are so many people around you all the time, and so many people telling you things like, oh, you got to do this, I'm going to do this, and this is faster, this is slower. But it all comes back to you. Like, you know yourself the best. You know what you're going to be able to do the best. And I think that's one thing I struggled with on the team with the boys is sometimes they do lines and they're like, this is way faster on me. And I'm like, okay, that might be faster for you, but I can't hop up to that stump that fast and turn around that corner like that.
Right.
So you got to like hear those things and be like, okay, that's an option, but is that going to be faster for me, or is it just going to take too much effort, you know?
Right. So knowing your own strengths as well.
Yeah, exactly. And focusing on, you know what you're good at and you know how to ride a bike, and then hearing other people's opinions and what they think, but not absorbing all of it and being like,
Right.
oh, I have to do that.
Because sometimes it can be really helpful, right?
Yeah,
But then perhaps other times it's like, that's just noise, or it's a helpful cue in this race.
exactly. And I think that's the thing. Like, you want to hear what people have to say, but you don't necessarily have to put that to use. You can
Right.
just,
And what about when you see people crush on a certain racetrack,
Yeah,
a certain
that's-
feature? Like, how do you navigate that?
that's probably like the worst. I think when you see someone crash, you're like, oh my gosh. And then you're thinking about it way too much too. But it's the same thing of like, it's your race, you're your own person, and you're not going to do that if you don't think about it too much.
Yeah.
But it's super hard to not think about those things and crashing. And when you see someone, it's always like on the back of your mind. But yeah, just focusing on you and how you're riding, just letting that's like the control thing again, is like those things are out of your control. You can't control what other people are going to do, but you can focus on your own control.
Totally. Yeah, I love that. And I'm curious, like I noticed here, like living in Squamish, or even, when I used to live down on the North Shore, where you're now based, there's this real kind of scene of like feature-based riding.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
found sometimes I would have all these perceptions and almost like feelings about certain features before I'd even gone there.
Yeah.
Because I hear all this talk and we see it on Instagram. and
Yeah.
again, we're taking in all of these other people's opinions and feelings. How do you navigate that? You're obviously, you've been down there for what, a couple of years now?
Yeah.
Riding a bunch of different trails that
Yeah.
were all new to you at the start. How
Yeah.
do you go there and take a look at things with fresh eyes when there's already so much other noise going on?
Yeah, I think you always gotta, like, everybody rides differently, and it's your time to do it, and you can just focus on that. I find it really hard too when it's also like okay to say no to things. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm a World Cup racer, I'm on a team, I should do this drop, like this is easy, like I've seen hundreds of other people do this. But if you're not feeling it, you can just not do it, and it's fine. It doesn't make you a less good rider, it doesn't make you anything. And I think that's some pressure of seeing everybody do these things and doing all these things, but you don't know what's gone into that. You don't know if they've looked at that like 1,000 times and then practiced it and then done it. You just see the video of them doing it. And so you got to like sort of take that into mind of, okay, like maybe I don't need to do this right now and it's fine.
I like that right now. You're still leaving the door open for if you want to go back there and do it.
Yeah,
next
exactly.
year, next month, whatever.
Yeah, it's never going to leave.
Yeah, exactly. The
Yeah.
roots are always going to be there.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Which is cool.
That's awesome. Really, really grounded approach.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, like, have there been any moments this season where things haven't gone to plan? 'Cause like you say, we kind of see the highlights reel of like, hey, Emmy got another first place
Yeah.
this year. She's doing all these features.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, describe a time if there's been any where things haven't gone to plan.
I think,
And then how have you mentally reset for the next thing or the next part of the race?
yeah, I think it's like, honestly, this whole season has been sort of up in the air. And it hasn't really gone to plan, like, at all. And so sort of like being adaptable and just changing plans and having that freedom of like, okay, I'm not going to go to Europe and that's fine. I'm going to do this instead. And I think that's important too, of not having your heart set on something, like just one goal, because things go out of path and you sometimes end up doing something else. And that's, you got to be able to detach from that and sort of focus on other things. But yeah, I think in the winter, we were going to go to Europe and do all the World Cups, and some things shifted and changed. And so we did other races this year. And that was sort of like oh my God, like, hey, I'm not going to do all the World Cups this year. Like, how is that? Like, that's tough and it's sort of upsetting.
Really mentally tough. Kind of, I guess, like seeing your race, seeing your career trajectory.
Yeah.
Like, oh, being to Europe now once.
Yeah,
Like,
I got to go again.
yeah,
It's like the normal thing to do. Yeah. But that's where like the other personal goals come in handy. Like, okay, maybe I'm not going to get the chance to win a World Cup this year, but that's fine. I can focus on this instead. And I really want to do this drop at Seymour.
Right.
And that's going to be my goal for now. And that's fine. But I think, yeah, the social media plays into that a lot too, where you see Instagram is just like a highlight reel. Like it's just, you see a lot of people's best moments and that's sort of it. And so I really appreciate when people share the tougher parts of racing and the parts that aren't awesome, because
totally.
everyone has those experiences and times. And yeah, I think probably one of my toughest ones this year is at the end of winter, sort of like February, March. I was finishing up exams at university, and that's also when all the racing started. And so I'd done these few races for years now, and I was like, okay, they're pretty easy races I can do well at. But I hadn't been riding a ton. I'd been working on school and finishing up my exams, and so I didn't do well at them at all. I got smoked, and that I was like, whoa, that sucks. Like, and then it's hard at the start of the season too. You're like, wow, I just want to give up now. Like, that's so tough. But yeah, you got to kind of push through and then refocus and control yourself. And yeah, people have bad races and people have tougher times, tougher months, and everyone peaks at a different time. So I think you got to remember that. And that was a tough sort of learning curve this year.
Yeah, I really love how you've been able to reflect on that and kind of still take some good from it and take it as a learning rather than a loss.
Yeah, exactly. And at the time I was like, oh my God, this is a huge loss. Like, start of the season, first 3 races down the drain, like didn't go how I planned at all. But then, yeah, you come back from it. I've had great results since. So it's, you kind of got to push through those hard times and just keep going.
And I guess it does really speak to like what we've got going on outside of mountain biking as well. Like, it sounds like an incredibly stressful period.
Yes.
Where you're maybe not on the bike every day, but you're mentally performing at your best, trying to pass your exams, and then also trying to race on the weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe just wasn't enough space to perform well in both.
Yeah, and I think that's like, there's been a few people now that are like, okay, you had like 4 exams. You don't need to do well at those races. Sometimes you got to sacrifice some things for other things. And so that's always a tough one to navigate, but you got to go through it to learn.
A dog friend coming to say hello.
Puppy?
Yeah, it must have been incredibly tough, but I think it's something even the listeners can learn. I think so often as riders, like, we'll beat ourselves up if we're like, oh, I did this drop yesterday.
Yeah.
Why can't I do it today? I usually do this. This one should be within my skill level. Why can't I do this today? It's like, Well, hang on a minute. Like, how are you actually feeling today?
Yeah,
As a
exactly.
human? What else is going on for you?
Yeah, and it's such an up and down sport where like sometimes I feel so good on my bike and the next week I'm like, wow, I can't do anything. But it's just the ebbs and flows, I think. So racing and mountain biking is such a tough sport. You got to ride the wave sometimes and just feel those lows and then feel the highs. And yeah, everybody has such complex lives and they've always got stuff going on. And you never really know what someone has like going on outside of racing. But all those things factor in. And
Totally. And it sounds like that's really become part of your process. It's like finding that balance and creating
exactly.
that space.
Yeah. And so I think it's neat to try and navigate that. Whereas like, doesn't like maybe those exams weren't a loss and they weren't a negative thing. It sort of let me reflect. And then after that period where I was like, I'd done so bad at those races, but I'd done well in my exams. I was like, okay, now I want to go fast and now I want to do well. I got that like fuel built up in me
Okay, great.
to sort of work harder now.
Yeah, you're like, now I have the capacity.
Yeah,
It's
and
time.
now like I can just focus on biking. School's done, so it's cool to see where the fire comes from sometimes.
Oh, that's so great. And I'm curious, what did you study there?
I'm in legal studies.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So again, like whole other world
Yeah.
outside of like outdoor sports
Yeah.
and mountain biking.
And I honestly, I love it so much. It's so cool. And I think one of my favorite things is going to school, sitting in a law class for hours, and then going shredding at Seymour. And you're like, wow, this is completely different.
It's like two
And
different worlds.
yeah, and they help each other so much though, because it's like working in the restaurant too. I'm sitting in class, I'm like, oh my God, all I want to do is go biking. So then when you get to go biking, you're like, I'm going to put everything into this ride and just ride as long as I can. And it helps you. And then same with school. I'm like riding. I'm like, okay, now I want to do something else. I'm going to do some schoolwork and focus on that. So the balance really comes in handy, I think.
Yeah, amazing. So I guess aside from like the building up excitement for riding when you're doing lots of sitting and thinking, is there any other kind of skill sets or parallels, anything you've learnt from like the law and the study that's now helped with mountain biking?
I think everything, and a lot of it is my friends at school too. Like my friends at school, they don't bike. They have no idea what I'm doing. And sometimes it's nice to be able to talk to them and see that there's so much else going on. And all my friends are always like, wow, it is so cool what you're doing. Like this is such an awesome thing. And it's so easy to forget that in the mountain bike industry because everybody's doing it and everybody's doing great things. But from an outside perspective, everybody in this industry is so cool and doing an awesome thing. And it's so easy to forget that if you're just in that world alone.
Right. So it almost reminds you like just how
Yeah,
awesome
lucky.
it is what
Yeah.
you're doing, how lucky you are
Yeah,
with those
exactly.
things,
And it,
versus if you're just comparing yourself to other people doing the same thing, it's like maybe you're always just like one step below them or something.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's motivating and it inspires me to keep going and just keep seeing where this path takes me because, yeah, comparing yourself to all the other people in the sport is tough. It's definitely like unmotivating sometimes. But my friends at school are like, wow, you're going to Europe to race your bike? Like, that's insane. And they don't care if I came last or if I won. They're just like, you're doing that? That's so
Totally.
cool.
I was going to say there, like when you're talking about exams and races, like even just getting to those races.
Yeah,
must be
exactly. And it's hard because you're focused on the result and you're like, oh, I didn't do well, but I'm here, I'm doing it, which is so
totally.
cool. Yeah. And I think a lot of people have jobs outside of the industry and they go to work. And I think that's so impressive, that alone. Just having a job and being a mountain bike racer and doing this sport is so awesome.
Fantastic. And I'm curious, like looking ahead, we're chatting about Crankworks.
Yeah.
What races have you got coming up? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I got a busy schedule coming up now. So I was just in Sun Peaks and I came back yesterday and then I'll leave on Thursday to go back to Sun Peaks for nationals. And so we have nationals and then Silver Star Crankworks the next weekend. So I'll go over there and do the downhill and dual slalom and then straight from there to Whistler and then Crankworks. I think Crankworks is just such an awesome, busy time, but I'm going to do the OG Canadian Open and then Garbanzo Downhill, which is my favorite race ever.
Why?
Because it's like enduro and downhill together.
Okay.
It's like my dream race. It's so long and it's so hard, but it's awesome. And you're on a downhill bike for so long.
Yeah.
And then dual slalom, which I'm not very good at, but it's always fun to challenge yourself. And then Air DH, which is fun,
Cool.
and 1199.
Fantastic.
which is always a cool one.
What are your thoughts on the $11.99 course?
$11.99, probably my favorite downhill track there is. It's so fun. And last year I'd had some tough races in Europe, and I came back and I rode that track and I was like, this is awesome. And I don't know if you know the track well, but it has some big drops on it.
This is why I ask. Like,
Yeah.
Most mere mortals I talk to are like, holy crap,
Yeah,
it's a crazy
exactly.
track.
And coming into the race weekend, one of my goals was just first lap, I'm going to hit everything, because sometimes if I don't do something first lap, I'm just like, oh, scared and thinking about it, and I never end up doing it. So coming into that race weekend last year, I was like, okay, I've seen these drops. I can do them. First lap, I'm just going to hit them, get them out of the way. And so I did that, and I felt, and that was a goal, and that was like an awesome achievement. I was just so stoked on that and proud of myself for that. And that sort of carried through the weekend of this like stoke and awesome racing. And yeah, it worked out well for that race.
That's so cool. That reminds me of like a lot of people here, not necessarily racers, just everyday riders.
Yeah.
Will kind of come up with like a 30-second rule, or like if I don't just ride it
Yeah.
the way, I won't ride it.
Yeah.
It does remind me of that, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. Is that like a strategy you'll run all the time, or just when you perhaps know that it's like it's within your
Yeah. I think you kind of got to like think about it. Like
right.
if I'm on a track I've never ridden before and there's some super gnarly features, maybe it's like smart to sort of take a look at it and do a few run-ins. But typically for me, and I think it varies between people, but for me, I know I can do these things. Sometimes I just need to do them right away. And so that was when we were just in La Tuile in Italy. There's this pretty big road gap on that track, and I didn't even want to look at it in track walk because I was like, oh my God, this is huge.
So you'd seen it like in online format, but not in person?
Yeah, and I'd seen everybody posting about it and like, oh, there's this super gnarly road gap. And I was like, oh my God. And so first day of practice, it's like 8 a.m. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to do it. Like, it's fine. And the cool thing about the World Cups is people are so good. They're the best in the world. Yeah. And so I have a lot of confidence in other people's abilities. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'll just follow someone in and it'll be fine. And so, yeah, first lap, I just rolled down and someone was off to the side before it. And I was like, okay, can I follow you in? They're like, yeah, for sure. And so we just did it and it was great and super easy. And I think that's such a good feeling of being able to hit stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So finding someone you can trust.
Yeah.
Taking some of that knowledge from them, I guess.
Yeah, cool. And then just, knowing that you can do it and not thinking about it too much.
Right.
So I like that sort of just doing it.
Yeah.
Just get it done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I guess if it is one of those things that we know we can do, we've done the work, we deserve to be there. At that point, then the only thing left is to do it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. There's no point in like overthinking it and just. And yeah, I think it's hard for me if I ride around something. Like if I had ridden around that road gap first lap, I would have been like, oh, okay, I can't do it right now. Yeah. And then it just all builds up and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so worried. But
yeah, and we do almost start practicing riding around it.
Yeah, and then you're like, not this lap. Yeah. And then it's like, oh.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It comes to the point where it's like, well, let's actually take a look at this.
Yeah.
See if I can see it through my eyes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's two ways to go about it. Either you just do it first lap or you like tell yourself, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to warm up a bit first and then figure out how I'm going to do it and do it.
Yeah, and have that as part of your plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, this has been a great chat. I feel like I've learned so much just back and forth.
Thank you so much.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you were hoping to chat about?
Man, I feel like we've covered most of it. Yeah,
is there any like industry sponsors, partners, or just anyone you want to give a shout out to? Yeah,
I mean, Forbidden, they're an awesome bike company doing great things. And Dupel, the team manager of the team, he's amazing, coordinates everything. And just all my friends and racers in the industry, just keeping the dream alive. And it's cool to watch everyone chase their dreams and do their thing. But yeah.
Yeah, honestly, it's super inspiring seeing you just like the attitude and the enthusiasm you approach the sport and approach all of these incredibly challenging things with.
Yeah. I think, it all comes back to the mindset. I think that's honestly the most important thing is having a good mindset about things, and it always falls into place when you have a good mindset.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's a great note to finish this on. Emmy, thanks so much for the chat.
Thank you so much.
It's great to hang out with you today. For those that are listening, thanks for taking the time. Look forward to seeing you on the next episode.